Have you ever had a dream of sailing the seas of Gillinor? Or what about being an Amazon delivery driver with none of the pay or the benefits? Or even the thought of doing agility for hours on end, but this time you're able to do it on water. If you're liking the sound of what I'm saying, then I think sailing is the skill for you. Today, we will be diving into what was once a joke of the RuneScape community, now turned into old school RuneScape's very first new skill. The very first thing we need to do in order to be able to start training sailing is to complete the brand new quest Pandemonium. The quest itself is very straightforward and easy. If you need an in-depth explanation of the quest, I will be leaving a link to the Wikipedia guide below. The first thing you'll be doing is making your way to the southern portion of the Port Sarim docks. The quickest way to get there is by using the Rat Pits minigame teleport to Port Sarim and then just running slightly south from there. If for whatever reason you don't have the Rat Pits minigame unlocked, you can just go to Draenor Village and then run to Port Sarim from there. So now that you've arrived at the southern portion of the Port Sarim docks, you will see two brand new NPCs sitting there waiting for you by the names of Anne and Will. So go right ahead and speak to them to begin your quest. They'll basically call you worthless and useless, and because they feel sorry for you, they'll give you a job on their ship if you want to take it. And as a result, you are now on their ship, steering it for them and basically doing all their work for them as they just sit back and relax. After sailing the ship for a little while, you'll come across a floating piece of salvage in the middle of the ocean. Go ahead and stop there and drop anchor. Now that the ship has come to a stop, Anne and Will start bossing you around once again. They'll tell you to go over to the salvage hook and drop it below to see if you can find anything of value from the shipwreck. After salvaging the ship for a little while, you'll come across two different things, an old cup and a mysterious medallion. And this is where things take a turn for the worse for you. Because after seeing that mysterious medallion, Will and Anne will decide to try to end your hardcore status and shove you straight off the boat. You'll black out for a little while, and then you'll finally wake up on the island of Pandemonium. Head inside of the bar and speak to the barkeep called Squawking Steve. He will inform you that Will and Anne were actually a notorious pair of thieves. Finish your conversation with Steve, then go ahead and find the NPC by the name of Ribs, located in the main room of the bar. Once you're done talking with Ribs, go back to Steve and continue the quest. Steve will then inform you that you need a boat. Head outside of the pub onto the docks where you'll find Junior Jim. Junior Jim will gift you a raft in exchange for the beat up old cup that you found while salvaging the ship on the ocean. Now you have your very first ship. Well, technically it's a raft, but this will count as your starting ship until level 50. Go ahead and grab yourself a saw and a hammer from the crates that are located on the docks. Now go ahead and head to the end of the docks and go aboard your ship via the gangplank. While aboard your ship, you should see a glowing white icon that will be your facility location to build different things in the future. The very first thing you'll be building is a cargo storage space. This will allow you to transport cargo and other items from one island to another and act as a storage for any sailing related items. Do note that inside of your cargo storage, if you either capsize or lose your ship in any other way, example, teleporting off of your ship, you will lose all materials and items that are within your cargo storage. And that isn't just for the quest, that is for any time in the future that you would lose your ship as well. Now go ahead and exit the portal and enter your raft via the gangplank. Go ahead and travel north to Port Sarim in order to collect your cargo. Once you have arrived at Port Sarim, go ahead and climb back onto the docks via the gangplank and grab your cargo. Carry the cargo to your ship and then store it in your cargo storage. And then from there, sail back to Pandemonium. Grab your cargo from the cargo storage and then climb onto the docks. Go ahead and deposit your cargo, then quickly talk to Junior Jim, and now you can go ahead and head back to Squawking Steve to finish your quest. Now, just before I jump into the leveling guide, I quickly want to mention a few plugins and features that will make your life a lot easier. These are by no means a requirement. If you don't want to do them, you don't have to, but it will make your life a lot easier. So the first of which is the Port Tasks plugin. What this plugin will do is it will draw you a line from point A to point B for any of your cargo tasks. On top of that, at your pickup stations for your cargo, it will show you the quantity that you need to deliver as well as pick up from each location. Bonus points if you make the color of the line in the water to blue, just because it will match the theme a little bit better. But you don't have to do that if you don't want to. The second plugin I highly recommend is the Object Markers plugin. What this will allow you to do is shift right click any object in order to be able to highlight it. which will be incredibly useful during the Barracuda Trials once you reach level 30. The next two aren't plugins, but just small quality of life updates that I highly recommend. I highly recommend menu entry swapping the sail on your ship to walk here. The reason is you can access all the information about the sail from the sailing menu, so you don't actually need to set it at all. So having it walk here will just allow you to not misclick as much on the sail while trying to steer your ship. The second one is to menu entry swap the gangplank to board previous. The reason you want to do this is it allows you to board the last ship you used. And when you start having multiple ships, it can get confusing of which one is which. So whenever you're using your last ship, you normally want to be using that one. So this just makes that a little bit easier. The last one isn't so much a plugin or recommendation, but just a tip. If you're watching this video near or around the time of the sailing release, there is a glitch right now with the 117 HD plugin where it will occasionally make your ship and other things around you completely invisible while sailing. So if you are having this issue, try temporarily switching to the GPU plugin because it will still make the graphics look a little bit nicer without you having to deal with all the glitches and issues. If you aren't having any of these issues, it might have already been fixed, so you can completely ignore this part. Now, let's go ahead and talk about how to customize our boat. I'm not going to go over every individual piece of equipment, but I will go over the basics. So in terms of the boat itself, there is 7 different pieces of equipment that you can equip your boat with, not including the actual equipment that is on the boat, such as the salvage hooks and stations. The first of which is the hull. The hull of the boat will increase its base speed as well as the boat's hit points. The keel of the boat will increase the boat's hit points and its armor. The helm of the ship just increases its resistance to different type of rapids, which are mostly used during the Barracuda Trials. So once you gain a resistance to a certain type of rapid, you will no longer take damage from that rapid and instead get a speed boost from it. The sails have 3 different types of features. The first of which is a storm resistance. Storm resistance will make you take reduced damage from different intensities of storms throughout the game. The second of which is a speed boost duration. This will determine how many game ticks your speed boost from winds will last for. And finally, you have acceleration. This will determine how fast of a boost you get from the winds. Really quickly, I will mention the brazier, which won't be covered in the beginner's guide because it is a much more advanced piece of equipment, but basically it's used for thawing out your ship once you go into more icy and chilly areas of the game. The last 2 pieces of equipment that you need to know about are the trim and the flag of your ship. These 2 pieces are completely cosmetic for your ship and provide no bonuses. That being said, the flag itself is a representation of beating the Marlin rank of one of the Barracuda Trials, while the trim is just a reward you get for completing cargo missions and other sailing activities. Now let's go ahead and talk about how you actually level up sailing. The first of which is what you'll start out doing, which is cargo missions. Basically, you're an Amazon delivery driver taking cargo from point A to point B. Next up, we have salvaging. Salvaging is when you find a floating piece of debris or a shipwreck in the water. What you'll do is bring your boat up next to it and drop your salvaging hook below, collecting salvage in your inventory. You can then bring it back to one of the docks, or if you have a salvaging station on your boat, and sort through the salvage for sailing XP. At higher levels, this can be a very AFK method of getting sailing XP. Finally, we have the best way to level up our sailing, which is the Barracuda Trials. The Barracuda Trials are a race obstacle course. What you do is you make your way through the rapids, collecting crates along the way. If you get hit by a storm cloud, you will slow your ship down, but if you go through one of the rapids, you'll speed up. You must complete multiple laps within a certain time frame in order to get an XP bonus. The XP bonus from the Barracuda Trials is only a one-time bonus, so once you've completed it once, you unlock the next tier of the Barracuda Trial. There is 3 different tiers, the Swordfish, the Shark, and the Marlin ranks. Each rank progresses in difficulty, but you also get more time along the way, as well as a higher XP reward upon completion. So my best suggestion is making your way through both the Swordfish and Shark rank, and if you can't beat the Marlin rank, it doesn't matter because you're still getting the highest XP rates from that Marlin rank. I would like to give an honorable mention to the random events that you can find while doing port tasks. These are just a little added bonus that you can get. They can vary pretty wildly in terms of what the event is. For example, one of the events I came across was a dog stranded on a piece of wood in the middle of the ocean. What you would have to do is click on the dog to rescue him and then bring him back to the port for an additional sailing XP bonus. And I'll be honest, if you don't rescue the dog, I'll just make the assumption that you're one of the people who shoos the stray dog Varrock away, so all I'm saying is rescue the dog. Now let's go ahead and dive into our level 1 to 50 guide. At level 1, you will start off at the Port Sarum docks or the Pandemonium, completely your choice, doing port tasks. You will be taking cargo from point A to point B over and over again for quite a while. The early levels are incredibly slow. So please do not think you are doing something wrong. I am telling you, level 1 to 30 is incredibly slow. At level 5, you'll go ahead and head to the Great Karen to Land's End. The port at the Land's End will offer you increased experience rates via the new tasks you unlock there. And this will pretty much be the method up until level 30. At level 10, you'll then go ahead and switch from Land's End to Musa Point. I should mention, if you don't mind losing your ship, you can just teleport straight there and pay the recovery fee for your ship to get it teleported to these new points. At level 15, you will unlock the next tier of boat called the Skiff. The Skiff is still pretty bare bones, but it'll give you the access to the salvaging hook, which will be very useful later on. It can also be upgraded much more than the previous raft. At level 15, we'll be heading back to the Great Karen, but this time we're going to be going to Port Piscarilius. And once again, you're just going to be taking cargo from point A to point B. It's pretty repetitive, and it is a little bit boring at the early levels, but this is the only way, unfortunately, to train to 30. Once you get to 30, this is going to be so much better, I promise. Once you reach level 20, you are now going to head over to Catherby. Once again, if you don't care about your ship or your cargo, you can go ahead and teleport straight to Catherby and recover your ship. And then finally, at level 25, you will reach Brimhaven, which once again, you will just be bringing cargo point A to point B. I will quickly mention that at level 7 and 28, you unlock additional port task capacity. So at level 7, you are now able to hold 2 tasks, and at level 28, you are able to hold 3 tasks. And you can do these simultaneously while bringing cargo from point A to point B, and just adding additional points along the way. If you don't want to, you don't have to, but it's an option for additional XP, but it can make the journey a little bit more confusing. So now once you reach level 30, you have 3 different options. You can continue taking cargo back and forth with the addition of a bounty task. A bounty task is similar to Slayer, where you will be assigned a certain monster in a certain location that you will have to go hunt down with your ship and get 3 items from those monsters. The items are different per monster, so I can't tell you exactly which monster drops which item. But once you have all 3 of those items, you bring them back to the Portmaster and claim a large amount of sailing XP. These bounties can be done one of 2 ways, and as of right now, I don't see a big difference. Option A is you can just shoot them with a bow or magic from your ship itself. The other option is using your ship's built-in cannons to fire at the monsters. Do note that all these monsters have a damage reduction unless they are attacked with a cannon. The second option is perfect for those of you who have already become seasick. I'm not sure if this method was intended, but it's pretty competitive XP rates and very chill in AFK. It is once again another bounty contract, but this one is a little bit different because of how you go about doing it. There is quite a few non-sailing requirements, so if you're extremely low level in terms of combat and construction, I probably wouldn't recommend doing this one. The biggest requirement is having access to fairy rings. If you don't have that, do not do this method. So you are going to head over to Catherby, and you are going to claim a bounty contract for the Osprey bird. Then you are going to go ahead and head over to fairy ring code AIR or AIR, and it will teleport you to an island that you can shoot or use magic the Osprey birds from the island itself. And now once you've collected 3 feathers from these birds, go ahead and teleport straight back to Catherby and turn in your reward and repeat the process. The third method is the Barracuda Trials. One thing you must do to your boat before you can actually start the Barracuda Trials is upgrade both your hull and your mast. You'll have to go ahead and upgrade your boat's hull and mast to the oak version. For the hull, you will need 10 oak hull parts, 300 iron nails, and 20 swamp tar. For any Ironmen watching this video, to create an oak hull part, you must bring 5 oak planks to a shipwright's workbench, which is located on most of the docks in the game that are sailing related. And now for the oak mast and sails, what you'll need is 10 oak logs, 40 iron nails, and 5 bolts of linen. Once again, for any Ironman, these bolts of linen are created by using flax on the loom located on Fossil Island. When you use a piece of flax on a loom, it will create a ball of linen, and then you need 2 of those. Once again, use them on the loom, and it will create a bolt of linen. Now that your ship is upgraded, you are ready to start the Barracuda Trials. The Barracuda Trials are a much more intense method of training that revolves around you racing through an obstacle course. So the main objective is to capture all the crates that are floating in the water. This is where the object marker highlight plugin will come in very handy. I suggest taking your first lap around very slow, don't worry about the time limit, and mark each crate by shift right clicking the crate and then marking the object, if you download the plugin that is. You can do this each time you rank up because there will be additional crates added for every rank you gain during the Barracuda Trials. So how the Barracuda Trials work. You will start off at quote-unquote the finish line. You will proceed through the Barracuda Trials collecting crates along the way. You will see little whirlpools in the water that you want to aim for. These whirlpools will give you a speed boost, and it is realistically the only way to actually make the time limit. If you ignore these completely, you will not make the time limit. You will still get the XP bonus at the end though. Now, the large thunderclouds that are scattered around the area, they will occasionally strike lightning down on top of you, and if they hit your ship, it will damage your ship as well as significantly reduce the speed of your ship for a short time. The last thing you want to do is every lap you make around the trial, there will be a ship on the opposite side of the finish line that will throw you a bottle of rum. You want to bring this bottle of rum back to the finish line, obviously without hitting any rocks along the way. And once you do so, you will throw it to the other ship at the finish line or the starting line. And that will count as one lap of the Barracuda Trial done. So my biggest suggestion with the Barracuda Trials, if you're having difficulty at the higher level ones, is think of them as rings. With each rank up adds an additional ring. An inner ring, a middle ring, and an outer ring. It doesn't really matter the order of which ring you start with, whether it be the middle, or the outside, or the inside. But my suggestion is, for each lap, always stick to one of those rings. So if you start with the outer ring, stick to the outer ring. Don't try to go for crates in the middle or the inner rings, because that will make you miss time a lot. And keep in mind, with each lap you do, no matter what ring you're on, you do still have to go ahead and collect the rum to bring it to the finish line. And you will pretty much do one of these three methods all the way from level 30 to 50. But I would like to mention one additional thing. At level 40, you unlock a crewmate. The first crewmate you unlock is Jobless Jim. He's located in North Port Sarim. You can request these crewmates to do anything you do on the ship. For example, while you're driving the ship, he can be salvaging material for you, which is incredibly useful, especially once you reach level 50 and get one of the bigger ships. Please do note that you are not able to take any crew members onto the Barracuda Trials. So if you already have added a crew member to your team, but you want to go back to the Barracuda Trials, you either need to select a different ship or come to Pandemonium and talk to the crew registrar. He will allow you to manage, add, and remove crew members from your ships. And once you finally reach level 50, you will unlock the brand new boat, the Sloop. This boat is double the size of your previous boat, which will allow your crew members to work much more effectively. Please note, I would not recommend this boat based on its size for any of the Barracuda Trials. I would still stick with the smaller one that you previously were using for that purpose. The Sloop has much more facility locations on the ship, allowing you to have much bigger crews later on, which will be insanely effective for training and higher level sailing content later on into the game. Once you reach level 50 and now you've unlocked the highest level ship, this is kind of where the endgame of current sailing begins. I'm not talking endgame in terms of experience or content, I'm just saying in terms of unlockables. In terms of training past level 50, I don't want to promise you anything specific because I haven't gotten there myself yet, but from what I can see, it seems like repeating the same thing of salvaging ships, doing cargo and bounty missions, and completing the higher tiers of Barracuda Trials. And along the way, upgrading your ship to the even higher tiers of hulls, keels, helms, sails, and braziers. So if this video was helpful for you, please let me know by liking the video. And if you do have any questions about sailing or any other things I didn't cover in this video, please let me know down below in the comments section. And if you have a second, maybe even consider clicking that subscribe button because it really helps the channel grow and helps me out a lot. So that being said, my name is NoobTuber and this has been my beginner's guide to sailing.